Why did you want to become a journalist?
I wanted to become a journalist because I love telling people stories, connecting with people, and being part of the community. And I really felt, even in college, that information, true information, is like the foundation of all the decisions that people make and the inner workings of who we are as a community. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I wasn't certain how to do that, but I knew I loved to write. I knew I loved to interview people and talk to people, and I actually enjoyed public speaking, which was strange but true. But my goal was never to be on television. I actually started out in radio. I just wanted to be a part of, being a megaphone for important issues and people who didn't have a megaphone and maybe didn't even have a voice at all. And that to me felt like a public service job, a job that would have meaning and importance to people. And I really wanted to do something with my life and my career that felt like a bigger purpose. And I really felt like this was a way to serve people and to serve the community.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you got started?
When I was in college, I was taking a lot of communications, writing, journalism classes, but honestly, I wasn't sure what to do with it. And I considered teaching, and I was going to teach for a while. A friend of mine said, you should do an internship at the NBC station in Denver. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. It was a TV station, and I wasn't thinking about TV, so I hadn't necessarily thought of that. So I did this internship, and I just saw this energy in this newsroom about people collaborating about ideas and issues that were important, and how can we talk to people that usually don't have their voices heard. And I could see how much good could come from this team and that energy. So I was all in. So I would stay late after my official hours of my internship, and I would rewrite stories, and I'd learn to edit stories, and I'd work to put together stories in my way, in my voice, and started to really learn more about that. And my internship supervisor pulled me aside one day and said, hey, I've noticed you've been staying late and coming in on your own time. And I thought at first I was in trouble, because I thought, oh, no, I didn't know that was against the rules. But he said, I see that you're really passionate about this, and I'm going to recommend you for a job if you're up for that. And I thought, are you kidding? Of course I'm up for that, And it was a producing job at a radio station in Denver, a news radio station in Denver. And so it was terrific because it was my first kind of foot in the door, not because I had the most experience, not because I was the best, but because they noticed I was putting in some extra time and working hard. And so I always appreciate kind of that first opportunity. And I did everything in that job. It was like running an audio board, which I did not know how to do until the moment. I'd book guests, I'd screen calls, I would write, I would learn to edit, I made coffee, I did anything that they needed, and really learned the inner workings of a news radio station, and was fully behind the scenes for a long time. And then a mutual friend said that there was a position open at a public TV station because somebody was on maternity leave. Hey, we could use some extra help. And I said, sure, I'll learn a little bit more about that. And so I went and worked there for free just to learn a little bit more about that part of the industry. And to make a long story short, the news director at the local TV station where I interned watched that public TV station. And she called me and said, would you be willing to do some dual work for the radio station and the TV station? And I said, yeah, I'll do anything, learn more and have an opportunity. So for about a year and a half, I worked at the radio station in the morning from 2 a.m. till 10. And at 10 a.m., I'd drive to the TV station, and I worked there from 10 to 5. And I did that 6 days a week for a year and a half. And till I could finally have to say, listen, I have to pick one place. I fell asleep at the wheel, honestly, driving from one job to the other. And thank goodness nobody was hurt. I didn't have an accident with anybody. But it was a point where I had to say, like, I think I need to make a decision about maybe just doing one of these two jobs. And so the TV station offered me a full-time job. And so I kind of fell into TV anyway, but was really thankful for that opportunity, and then was at that station for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
How'd that happen? It was 20 years later.
What do you like most about what you do?
What means the most is that people trust us with their experiences and their stories. Sometimes it's in the most challenging times of their life. Maybe it's in the most hurtful time of their lives or vulnerable time, or something that they're so passionate about that they just feel more than anything that they want to be able to get their point across. And then they trust you to do that. And I take that really seriously, because you don't want them to watch and say, that's not what I meant, or that's not how I feel. And you want to make sure that you get it right, first and foremost, for them. And then also because that is an opportunity for a lot more people to learn someone's perspective. And when a medium like print, radio, TV is used correctly, which is fair, which is facts, which is objective, it's so important. Because how else do we learn each other's experiences and perspectives? And how else can we really understand the issues that face us that are so important, unless we can see beyond our own bubble of our own little lives or our experience? And so that's the part that I like the most, that means the most, but I feel the most responsibility over.
What advice would you give to a aspiring journalist?
I think the most important piece of advice is just be open-minded to trying all different parts of the industry and learning all about it. Maybe I wasn't going to be a producer forever, but being a producer, one, gave me a really important insight into the challenges that they face, how hard that job is, so that when I work with a producer now, I have a great amount of respect for that position. And I think that's true for all these different parts of the business, because just because I might be the one on television doesn't make my job more important than anyone else on the team, because without all of us, it doesn't happen. And I think that's a really important part of it. The other part of it is just a piece of advice I would give is just understanding how important the facts are. And that might seem silly to say, but I have never in my life seen a time where facts have been maybe underappreciated and underutilized. I mean, the amount of misinformation out there is really disturbing, and I believe very dangerous. And so to hold on to what is true and pure and important about journalism is so important. And anyone getting in here now has such an opportunity to do the work that really matters. And it's the harder work. It is using two sources and knowing for sure and not guessing, and calling out things that aren't true, and reiterating the things that are true, and not just giving a headline, but understanding the context to a story so people really understand. We hear about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that there's blood clots. That's a pretty big headline, but the journalism behind that needs to say there are 6 people that got blood clots almost out of 7 million shots. It doesn't mean it's not important to know that, but without those numbers, you're not giving someone a full picture so they can make the best decision for their lives. So there's so many examples like that anyone can write a blog or do whatever, but the hardcore, old school kind of thing that never changes, which is why journalism and free press is a foundation of the democracy of this country, is doing the work. A great example, and a very sobering example, is if you look at the press release that was sent out after George Floyd died. It's a very nondescript written about a man who resisted arrest and had a medical issue. And that was it. If it weren't for someone recording that video and documenting that moment, and then the world rallying and journalists starting to dig into questions and all of that happening, it is a very different situation. I just think like the advice would be ask questions, be curious, be skeptical enough to know that you're getting down to the deeper issues. Be open-minded, speak to a lot of different people, make sure you're looking at all the different sides of a story and make sure that what you've got is facts, because, there is no negotiating truth. Truth is a really powerful thing, which is why it gets fought against so hard, right? But it is, journalism is like a hardcore, make a difference, change the world kind of thing. It's not easy, but it is so important. That's a super long way to answer your question, but it's just such a complex time. But I don't think there's ever been a time, not in my lifetime, where you can see how vital it really is. The other thing, Destiny, it's also an exciting time because one journalist can reach people in so many different ways, whether it's social media, YouTube, the station, I mean, lots of different platforms. But the other thing that I think is helpful is to think about having a well-rounded skill set. Writing and research is always going to be the foundation. That's like baseline for anything that we do, right? But it's also important to learn how to know a lot of different technology. I anchor newscasts, but I also learned how to edit and shoot video, and I can produce and do my own stories. And I ended up doing that initially to cover the Olympics, but now I do it every day. And it's a way that I can contribute to the team in a different way but having a wide range of skill sets will give you a lot more opportunities. So it's not saying like, well, I'm an anchor, I don't do that. It's like I'm an anchor who also does that. And it's actually given me lots of opportunities to do stories maybe I wouldn't be able to do otherwise because there's not a photographer available or something like that. So I would just say it's valuable not to shy away from things that maybe you don't feel comfortable with. I would have told you I'm the last person that should ever touch a button. Technology is not my thing. I don't feel like I'm very good at it. It was super intimidating to me, but I kind of leaned in and gave it a shot and tried it and didn't give up. And I'm not the best photographer and I'm not the best editor, but I've learned to love it and I've gotten so much better, and I produce those stories all the time. It's why I can go to the Olympics, because when I go to the Olympics, I'm a one-person show. I set up my live shot, I shoot the video, I edit the video, I write the scripts, and then I anchor the shows. And so I think I was nervous and insecure to try a lot of those things, but I'm so glad I kind of faced the fear and tried it, because it's added so much that I enjoy, but it's also provided a lot of opportunities. So anyone along the way that is thinking like, I don't think that's really my thing, it's not bad to try it. At least you'll get to experience it and see if it might be something you can add into what you're doing with your career.
What was your favorite part about covering the Olympics?
I love so much about it because it's one of those rare times the world really comes together and is looking for things to celebrate, unified instead of be divided, and kind of cheer for each other. And it's, the idea of that is so amazing. And it's been incredible to, cover all kinds of different athletes. But I think one of my favorite moments was actually at the London Olympics, where a marathoner from who didn't have a country to call her own, and I believe she was in last place by quite a while, and all the other athletes lined up and cheered her on. You would have thought she was the gold medalist, and the way the crowd responded, to me, it just really exemplified the Olympic spirit, that it isn't really just about winning. It is about reaching a point you never thought you'd make, being in tandem with people from all over the world who look all kinds of different ways, who speak many different languages and have such vastly different life experiences, but can find common ground. That I love more than anything. And seeing places in the world I don't know if I'd ever get to see otherwise. I mean, we went to the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. I thought I would never have experienced this. So it adds different perspective to my life personally, and then also perspective that I hope to bring to the work that I do, like on a daily basis.
I can't think of anything else, Michelle.
It's so fun to talk to you. I hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Yes, me too. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.